First contact shock. The archival chamber of the Centauri Convergence fell silent as Supreme Observer Zilix absorbed the latest reports from Earth. Around him, the crystalline walls pulsed with a deep indigo, reflecting his growing concern. For 3 centuries, the Convergence had watched humanity from afar, documenting their progress with clinical detachment. But today's data defied all predictive models. Impossible, Zilix whispered, his luminescent appendages flickering with agitation. Their quantum computing breakthrough shouldn't have happened for at least another century. First Assistant Catal moved closer, her form shimming with anxiety. Supreme Observer, the humans have also mastered plasma containment 2 generations ahead of schedule. Their development curve is unprecedented. Unprecedented. The word hung in the air like a warning. The Convergence had studied thousands of civilizations across the galaxy, cataloging their evolution with meticulous precision. Every species followed predictable patterns, advancing through clear technological stages at measurable rates. Every species except humans. "Show me the historical overlay," Zilix commanded. The chamber's walls erupted with holographic data, centuries of human advancement compressed into a visual stream. Wars blazed across continents, empires rose and fell, and through it all, humanity's technology surged forward in erratic leaps. "They shouldn't be capable of this," Catal noted, her form pulsing with confusion. "Their social structures are chaotic, their planet's resources depleted, their politics fractured. By all established metrics, they should have destroyed themselves centuries ago." Zilix moved through the data, focusing on key moments in human history. "Look here," he indicated a period humans called World War I. They developed atomic weapons while still relying on primitive combustion engines. Then here, he shifted to the space race. They reached their moon using computational power less sophisticated than our children's teaching devices. "It defies logic," Catal agreed. "They advance faster under pressure. Crisis accelerates their innovation instead of hampering it." The chamber's walls shifted again, displaying real-time feeds from Earth's major population centers. Humans scurried about their daily lives, seemingly oblivious to their extraordinary nature. They built massive structures alongside ancient ruins, operated quantum computers in buildings centuries old, and launched advanced spacecraft while millions still traveled in wheeled vehicles. "Their adaptability is unlike anything we've encountered," Zilix mused. "They don't wait for perfect solutions. They improvise, iterate, improve. When faced with limitations, they don't accept them. They find ways around them." A new alert flashed across the displays. Catal's form rippled with alarm as she processed the data. "Supreme Observer, they've just achieved breakthrough in neural interface technology." The development team, they did it in their spare time, working from what humans call a garage. Zilix's appendages twisted in disbelief. The Convergence had spent decades perfecting neural interfaces in state-of-the-art research facilities. These humans had replicated and improved upon the technology with primitive tools and limited resources. "There's more," Catal continued, her voice wavering. "Our analysis suggests they're on the verge of discovering faster-than-light travel principles. Their theoretical physicists are already proposing models that—" She paused, her form flickering rapidly, "that our scientists haven't even considered." The implications were staggering. The Convergence had maintained its position as the galaxy's premier civilization through careful advancement, methodical research, and strict control of technological proliferation. Humanity's chaotic, accelerated development threatened to upend millennia of established order. "What do they do with these advances?" Zilix asked, though he already knew the answer. The displays shifted again, showing human military installations, research facilities, and space stations. Every breakthrough, every innovation was rapidly adapted for multiple purposes, both peaceful and military. "They weaponize everything," Catal observed. "But they also turn weapons into tools. Nuclear power from atomic bombs, civilian spaceflight from military rockets, internet from defense networks. They transform and repurpose with remarkable speed. Zilix moved to the center of the chamber, his form now pulsing with dark purple waves of concern. We've been watching them as curiosities, studying them as we would any emerging civilization. But we've made a grave error in our assessment. Supreme Observer, we haven't been observing an emerging civilization, Zilix stated, his voice resonating with newfound understanding. We've been watching the galaxy's most dangerous species take its first steps toward the stars. Kill's form contracted slightly. Should we intervene? The protocols for containing potential threats would be useless, Zilix interrupted. Look at their history. Every time humans face an overwhelming force, they don't submit. They innovate. They adapt. They overcome. If we try to contain them, we'll only accelerate their advancement. The chamber's walls dimmed as Zilix reached his decision. Prepare a full report for the Convergence Council. Classification. Omega priority. We need to completely reassess our approach. Humanity isn't just another species to be studied and guided. There's something we've never encountered before. A civilization that thrives on overcoming limitations, that grows stronger in the face of adversity. As Kittal hurried to comply, Zilix remained in the chamber, watching the streams of data from Earth. Somewhere down there, humans were already working on technologies that would reshape the galaxy. They didn't know they were being watched. They didn't know their achievements defied cosmic norms. They simply did what humans had always done, pushed boundaries, broke limits, and turned the impossible into reality. The Supreme Observer's form pulsed with a complex mixture of fear and fascination. The galaxy's balance of power had maintained stability for millennia. But now, a species barely out of its planetary cradle was about to change everything. The humans were coming, and the universe would never be the same. The test. 3 lunar cycles had passed since Zilix's report shook the Convergence Council. The massive amphitheater of the High Chamber now hosted the most powerful beings in the galaxy, their crystalline forms shimmering with barely contained agitation as they debated humanity's potential. We must know their true capabilities, Elder Voss declared, his ancient form casting prismatic shadows across the chamber. Theory and observation are no longer sufficient. We require practical data. Supreme Observer Zilix felt unease ripple through his form. The humans are highly perceptive. Any direct test risks detection. Then we shall be subtle, Elder Voss responded, his tone leaving no room for debate. We will present them with challenges that appear natural. Their responses will reveal their limits, or lack thereof. The plan was set in motion within cycles. The Convergence deployed its most advanced technologies, carefully masked as natural phenomena. The first test targeted Earth's communications infrastructure, a carefully calibrated solar flare that should have devastated their satellite network. Kittal monitored the human response from the archival chamber. Supreme Observer, they're adapting. Their engineers are implementing solutions we hadn't even considered. Zilix watched in amazement as humans not only shielded their satellites, but used the solar flare's energy to boost their communication capabilities. Within days, they had transformed a potential catastrophe into an advancement opportunity. Initiate the second test, Elder Voss commanded. This time, they introduced an artificial asteroid, composed of elements unknown to Earth science, on a collision course with their planet. The Convergence expected panic, perhaps even civilization-wide chaos. Instead, they witnessed something extraordinary. They've launched a multinational response, Kittal reported, her form pulsing with excitement and disbelief. Multiple space agencies are coordinating. They're not just trying to deflect the asteroid, they're planning to capture it. The humans had spotted the unusual composition of the asteroid and recognized its potential value. What was meant to be a test of their crisis response had turned into a resource acquisition mission. Within weeks, they had developed new propulsion systems, enhanced their tracking capabilities, and formed unprecedented international collaborations. Remarkable. Elder Voss admitted, watching as human spacecraft approached the asteroid with surprising precision. But surely they cannot. His words cut off as the humans not only captured the asteroid but began mining it in orbit. Their scientists were already publishing papers on the new elements, proposing applications that even the Convergence hadn't considered. Final test, Elder Voss declared, his form now pulsing with an emotion rarely seen in the Convergence: uncertainty. The last challenge was subtle, a complex mathematical sequence embedded in cosmic background radiation, detectable only with quantum sensors that humans shouldn't have possessed for centuries. The sequence contained principles of faster-than-light travel, but encrypted in a way that had taken the Convergence generations to decode. Within months, amateur human astronomers detected the signal. Within weeks after that, universities worldwide were analyzing it. And then, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday afternoon, a graduate student in Mumbai cracked the code. "Impossible," Hall whispered, watching the solution spread across human scientific networks. She solved it while drinking something called a chai latte and watching cat videos on their primitive global network. The high chamber erupted in chaos. The humans hadn't just passed their tests. They had transformed them into opportunities, adapted them into advantages, and solved them in ways that defied conventional logic. "Don't you see?" Xylix addressed the council, his form glowing with intense realization. "Every challenge we present, they overcome. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. We designed these tests to measure their limits, but we've discovered something far more significant." "And what is that?" Elder Voss demanded. "They don't think like us," Xylix explained. "We advance through careful iteration, building upon established principles. Humans, they make leaps. They connect seemingly unrelated concepts. Their chaos isn't a weakness, it's the source of their strength." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had taken the Convergence's most sophisticated tests and turned them into accelerants for their own development. Even now, their scientists were building upon the principles they'd discovered, pushing boundaries the Convergence had long thought absolute. "We must make a decision," Elder Voss finally declared. "Do we continue to watch from the shadows as they advance, or do we acknowledge their presence?" Before anyone could respond, a new alert flashed across the chamber's displays. Ctal's form flickered rapidly as she processed the data. "Supreme Observer, the humans. They've just activated their first quantum beacon. They're not just looking for alien life anymore. They're announcing their presence to the galaxy." Xylix's form pulsed with the weight of the moment. The tests had confirmed their worst fears and greatest hopes. Humanity wasn't just capable, they were transformative. And now, they were reaching out into the cosmos, ready or not. The age of observation was over. The time for direct contact had arrived, and no one in the high chamber could predict what would happen next. Hidden in plain sight, the Convergence's first official contact mission approached Earth with what they believed was perfect stealth. Their vessel, the Luminous Seeker, represented the pinnacle of their technological achievement, a ship that could bend light, mask energy signatures, and move undetected through any known detection grid. Supreme Observer Xylix stood on the bridge, his form rippling with anticipation as Earth grew larger in their view screens. They had chosen to appear in high orbit over the United Nations headquarters in New York, planning a carefully choreographed revelation that would minimize panic and establish the Convergence's superior position. "Final approach," Ctal announced. "All stealth systems functioning at optimal levels. The humans remain unaware of our incoming transmission." The communications officer interrupted, their form flickering with confusion. It's from Earth." "Impossible," Xylix whispered. But there it was, a tight beam quantum transmission, perfectly calibrated to their ship's frequency. The message was brief, encoded in the Convergence's own diplomatic protocol. "Welcome to Earth. We've been expecting you. Please proceed to the following coordinates for landing." The bridge fell silent. The coordinates pointed to a facility in Antarctica, a location that, according to their intelligence, should have contained nothing but research stations studying the planet's climate. Supreme Observer, Cutall's voice wavered. Our scans are detecting something. The ice sheet is not what it appears to be. As they watched, a section of Antarctica's ancient ice began to shift. Massive panels slid apart, revealing a state-of-the-art landing facility that had been completely invisible to their surveillance. The structure gleamed with an odd combination of technologies, some recognizably human, others suspiciously advanced. They knew, Xylix realized, his form pulsing with shock. They've known all along. The luminous seeker landed in the massive underground facility, surrounded by what appeared to be a mixed honor guard of human military personnel and civilian scientists. As the Convergence delegation prepared to disembark, they received another transmission, this time in all major human languages simultaneously. On behalf of the United Earth Council for Extraterrestrial Relations, established 2047, we welcome our friends from the Centauri Convergence. Xylix led his team down the ship's crystalline ramp, trying to maintain composure despite the growing realization that they had severely miscalculated. The human delegation was led by a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold both wisdom and amusement. "I am Director Helena Chen," she said, speaking perfect Convergence standard, their supposedly untranslatable language. "We apologize for any confusion, but we thought it best to let you maintain the illusion of your covered observation. It helped us understand your intentions." "How?" Xylix began, but Director Chen raised a hand, gesturing to their surroundings. "Perhaps a tour first," she suggested. "We have much to show you, and even more to discuss." The facility was a revelation. Behind its doors lay technology that should have been centuries beyond human capability. Quantum computers worked alongside artificial intelligence systems that rivaled the Convergence's best. Most shocking were the displays showing detailed maps of Convergence space, including classified military installations and secret research centers. "Your stealth technology is impressive," Director Chen commented as they walked. "But you should know, we detected your first probes decades ago. Every test you conducted, every challenge you presented, helped us refine our understanding of your capabilities. You used our observation to study us." Cutall realized, her form fluctuating with a mixture of horror and admiration. "Precisely," Chen smiled. "While you watched us stumble toward the stars, we were building this." She gestured to a massive holographic display showing a network of hidden facilities around the planet. "Humanity united not through your careful guidance, but through the knowledge that we weren't alone. Your presence gave us a goal, a reason to overcome our differences." Xylix moved closer to the display, his form dim with shock. "These facilities, the technology, how did you manage to hide all of this?" "The same way we've always survived," Chen replied. "Adaptation. Innovation. We took what we learned from your probes, your tests, and yes, even your attempts at stealth, and we improved upon them. Your solar flare test. It helped us develop better shielding. The asteroid. We've now mapped most of your automated observation platforms using similar principles." The implications were staggering. The Convergence had thought they were studying a promising but primitive species. Instead, they had been providing an advanced civilization with the tools and motivation to surpass them. "Why reveal yourselves now?" Xylix asked. Director Chen's expression grew serious. "Because it's time for honesty between our peoples. The galaxy is changing, Supreme Observer. We've detected things in the void between stars. Things that concern us. Things that should concern you too." She led them to a secure chamber deep within the facility. The walls were covered with data streams and star maps, highlighting anomalies that made Xylix's form pulse with dread. The humans hadn't just been preparing for first contact. They had been preparing for something far more dangerous. "We need to talk," Chen said, her voice grave. "Not as observers and subjects, but as equals. Because what's coming affects us all, and humanity has no intention of facing it alone." The weight of the moment pressed down on Xylix, They had come to Earth expecting to guide a young species into the galactic community. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a civilization that had already claimed its place among the stars, and perhaps done so more cleverly than any before them. The void stirs. The secure chamber's displays cast an eerie glow as Director Chen pulled up the deep space scans. Supreme Observer Zilix felt his crystalline form grow cold as the data streams revealed what humanity had discovered. "We'd first detected them 6 months ago," Chen explained, manipulating the holographic display. "Massive objects moving through the void between galaxies, consuming all energy in their path. We call them voidborn." The scans showed enormous entities, each larger than a solar system, leaving absolute darkness in their wake. They defied known physics, bent space around them, and seemed to be heading directly for the Milky Way. "Impossible," Catal whispered. "Our sensors would have detected." "Your sensors," Chen interrupted gently, "are based on conventional quantum mechanics. We had to develop new principles of physics just to see them. That's why we need each other. Your civilization's stability combined with our capacity for unconventional thinking." In the following days, joint teams of human and convergent scientists worked around the clock. The humans' chaotic approach to problem-solving initially frustrated the convergence experts until they began seeing results. "It's not random," Zilix observed, watching a human physicist sketch equations on a whiteboard while simultaneously juggling and listening to music. "Their minds make connections ours wouldn't because we're too focused on order." A young human scientist named Dr. Patel had proposed using the Voidborn's own space-time distortions against them. The idea seemed absurd until a convergence mathematician realized it could work if they could harness enough energy. "We'll need to coordinate across multiple galaxies," Chen said during an emergency session. "The Voidborn are drawn to energy. We can use that." The plan was audacious. Using a network of modified quantum beacons, they would create a massive energy web, drawing the Voidborn into predetermined paths. Then, using principles derived from both human and convergent science, they would collapse the space-time around them, trapping the entities in artificial pocket universes. "It's never been done before," Catal protested. "That's why it'll work," Dr. Patel grinned. "They won't expect it because it's technically impossible." As the crisis deepened, more alien civilizations joined the effort. Many were shocked to find humans leading such an advanced initiative. The convergents found themselves acting as intermediaries, translating humanity's innovative chaos into terms other species could understand. The first test of their defense system came sooner than expected. A scout entity, smaller than the others, but still massive, approached the outer edge of the galaxy. The joint human convergence fleet moved to intercept. "Energy web stable," Catal reported from the flagship's bridge. "But the calculations." "Forget the calculations," Chen commanded from her position beside Zilix. "Watch what it does. Adapt to its movements." "Dr. Patel, you're up." The young scientist's fingers flew across his console, adjusting the energy patterns in ways that defied conventional physics but somehow worked. The Voidborn entity, drawn to the energy, moved exactly where they wanted it. "Now," Chen ordered. The fleet activated their modified drives simultaneously. Space itself seemed to fold, creating a pocket of nothingness that swallowed the entity whole. For a moment, everyone held their breath. "Containment holding," Catal announced, her form bright with excitement. "The pocket universe is stable." It actually worked. "One down," Chen said grimly. "About 1,000 to go." The victory changed everything. Species that had dismissed humanity as upstarts now sought their counsel. The convergents found their role evolving from would-be mentors to partners in an unprecedented coalition. "You knew, didn't you?" Zilix asked Chen privately after another planning session. "You knew we were watching, and you knew something like this was coming. That's why you let us think we were studying you." Chen smiled enigmatically. "We suspected. Earth's history taught us that extinction-level threats are inevitable. The question was never if, but when. So we used every resource available, including your observation of us, to prepare. And now, Xylix pressed. Now we do what humanity has always done, Chen replied. We face the impossible, we adapt, and we overcome. Only this time, we do it together. As if to emphasize her point, alarms blared throughout the facility. The main Void-born fleet had increased speed. They would reach the galaxy months ahead of schedule. Well, Chen said, straightening her uniform, time to prove that the galaxy's deadliest species can also be its greatest defenders. A new dawn. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Across thousands of light years, a coalition of civilizations mobilized under joint human convergence leadership. The main Void-born fleet approached like a wave of darkness, but they would not find easy prey. In the primary command center beneath Antarctica's ice, Director Chen and Supreme Observer Xylix coordinated the defense. The walls displayed real-time feeds from millions of sensors, tracking both the Void-born and their own forces. They're adapting to our tactics, Catul reported, her form dimming with concern. The Pocket Universe strategy isn't working anymore. Of course they are, Dr. Paddle replied, not looking up from his calculations. They're learning. So must we. The humans' approach to warfare proved as unconventional as everything else about them. While other species sought perfect solutions, humanity embraced improvisation. They modified strategies mid-battle, repurposed civilian technology for military use, and somehow turned their own fear into a weapon. Look at their pattern, Chen said suddenly, studying the Void-born movements. They're not just consuming energy. They're storing it, building up to something. Xylix's form pulsed with realization. They're planning to trigger a chain reaction. If they release that energy all at once, the galaxy's core would collapse. Catul finished, her calculations confirming their worst fears. The command center erupted in chaos as various species representatives argued about evacuation plans and containment strategies. But the humans were oddly quiet. Their scientists huddled around displays, whispering intensely. We don't need to stop them, Dr. Patil announced suddenly. We need to help them. The room fell silent. Even Chen looked startled. Explain. They want energy. Patil grinned. Let's give them more than they can handle. We've been thinking about this wrong, trying to contain beings that exist to consume. Instead, let's overwhelm them. The plan was pure human insanity. They would use the combined power of every star, every quantum reactor, every energy source in the galaxy to create a feedback loop. The Void-born's own consumption would become their undoing. The calculations alone would take years. A convergence scientist protested. Then we'll do it without them, Chen replied. Sometimes you have to stop measuring the odds and just jump. What followed was either the most brilliant or most reckless military campaign in galactic history. Humanity's fleet commanders issued orders that seemed to defy logic, but somehow created patterns that forced the Void-born exactly where they needed them. The final battle took place near the galactic core. Millions of ships, representing every spacefaring race, moved in formations that would have been impossible to coordinate if not for humanity's quantum communication breakthroughs. Energy web at maximum capacity, Catul reported. All species contributing power. Void-born fleet concentrating, another officer added. They're taking the bait. Chen and Xylix stood side by side, watching as the largest coordinated action in galactic history unfolded. Remarkable, Xylix observed. Every species working together, following a plan that by all logic shouldn't work. That's humanity's gift to the galaxy, Chen smiled. We remind everyone that the impossible just means no one's done it yet. The Void-born entities, drawn by the unprecedented energy concentration, gathered into a tight cluster. At Chen's command, the coalition fleet triggered their modified drives simultaneously. Space itself seemed to shudder. The entities began their consumption sequence, just as predicted. But this time, the energy they absorbed had been specifically calibrated. Each jewel contained encoded quantum information that multiplied exponentially upon absorption. The Voidborn tried to adapt, but for once, they were too slow. The cascade reaction moved faster than even their vast consciousness could process. One by one, they imploded, their own consumption turning inward until they collapsed into quantum singularities. In the aftermath, as the galaxy celebrated its survival, something profound had changed. The old hierarchies of species, based on age and technological advancement, no longer seemed relevant. We need to rethink everything. Xylix addressed the emergency council session. Our assumptions about progress, about cooperation, about what makes a species advanced, they were all wrong. The evidence was undeniable. Humanity's chaotic innovation, combined with their ability to unite diverse groups toward common goals, had achieved what millennia of careful advancement could not. So what happens now? Catal asked during a quiet moment in the Antarctic facility. Chen looked out over the assembled alien representatives, all working together on reconstruction plans. Now we build something new. A galaxy where every species contributes its strengths, where progress isn't measured by age or power, but by what we can achieve together. And humanity's role in this new order? Xylix inquired. We'll do what we've always done, Chen replied. Push boundaries. Ask impossible questions. Find ways to turn opponents into allies and problems into opportunities. And most importantly, she smiled, we'll keep reminding the galaxy that being dangerous doesn't mean you can't also be a force for good. As the sun rose over Antarctica, casting golden light through the facility's crystal domes, representatives from 1,000 worlds began drafting a new galactic charter. At its core was a simple truth. The species that had been seen as the galaxy's greatest potential threat had become its greatest hope for the future. The Convergence would maintain its role as record keepers, but now they documented a very different story. How humanity's creative chaos, combined with the ordered wisdom of ancient species, had transformed the galaxy, not through conquest or dominance, but through the uniquely human gift of turning adversity into opportunity. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, the remnants of the Voidborn became a testament to what diverse species could achieve together. Led by the most unpredictable, adaptable, and remarkable species the galaxy had ever known.